topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Welcome to Learning to Dance in the Rain. I'm Shelby Wagner, your host for conversations about love, about life. And today I will be talking with Pastor Carl again and finishing up our conversation that we started a couple of weeks ago, how to make love last. And this is number 3. I'm going to start with a recap of what we had talked about before, and then we'll get started with our continuation of the conversation. I believe we talked a bit about expectations and commitment, and one of the things is that a commitment. Here we are. Before you can have a committed, fulfilling relationship, you need to have realistic expectations of exactly what such a relation looks like. So maybe making a list of items that you think should be would fulfill your goal of having a committed relationship, a fulfilling relationship. But expecting everything to be perfect is not one of them, because there is no perfect person on the planet. And as far as I know, Jesus Christ was the only one that was considered to be perfect. So that's one of the things that we needed to think about, is moving through the title passage where you and Mr. Right become happy together forever. And that's what we're wanting to talk about. And I believe that one of the items that we mentioned last week was to practice forgiveness, because no one is perfect. And you have to let go of the grudges and go on. And Pastor Carl, you and I were talking this morning a little bit about grudges and choosing to forgive, understanding that mistakes are part of growth. I believe you. Welcome to the show, by the way.
You caught me. I've got a little heater under my desk. My feet were cold. You caught me trying to set the heater up. And so a very undignified entrance today, I'm afraid.
Well, we're going to start with forgiveness, so I guess I'll forgive you.
Oh, well, thank you. Please forgive me.
You're very welcome. I think one of the problems is when we start to talk with somebody, with our significant other or our spouse, whatever, excuse me, that somehow some of the past mistakes might come up and we say, oh, well, you always.
Oh, no, not that word. Oh, no.
Why is that a no word for, you said we were talking about marriage?
Well, there's no one perfectly good, and there's absolutely no one who's perfectly bad. And there's no one who always says it exactly the same way, or always brings up this topic, or always chides, or whatever. So to be the one to accuse your partner of, you always say it that way, or you always bring that up, they can legitimately argue with you or disagree with you that they don't always do that. They might do it often, they might do it frequently, but not always. So always is a big accusation, and someone will probably bristle at that. And so that's kind of a non-starter if you're going to have a constructive conversation together. If you're trying to get to the root of a problem, you don't want to start with blaming one another. It's better to approach it with, I know that I'm unhappy, and I think we have a problem. Maybe we can talk about it. So begin with the feeling statement. I know I'm unhappy, and then with an invitation. Let's begin to work on this, rather than with an accusation. You're always to blame. You're always wrong. That'll never fly. And of course, your partner is going to resent that kind of an come on there.
Right.
So
That's going to start an argument before you even get started. If
yeah, you'll be arguing about something completely different. What than the topic you really wanted to talk about.
right, right. And also we mentioned that being rather um, uh, inward looking or shy might be the word, that we're reluctant to bring up these
Right.
that we're having with our spouse. But
Right. Mm-hmm.
Can you suggest another or a way that would be a good way to get into having a discussion about this?
Well, you're looking at the walking wounded here, because as I was telling you earlier, both my wife and I were reluctant to bring up touchy subjects for fear of experiencing anger and rejection. We had both come from really damaged relationships, and really the love that was expressed within our families was a very what's the word I'm looking for? It seemed like temporary love, or conditional love. That's the word. Conditional love. I will love you if, or I will love you when, or I will love you more when, and that sort of thing. So it always seemed like, for both of us, my wife and I, but for both of us, it seemed like to bring up a touchy subject where we might get angry, we might have an argument, was to we encountered fear about that what if this breaks the relationship, what if somebody gets mad and things are worse than they are right now, and we would be afraid of that. So you're talking the walking wounded. What I've discovered is, and it was hard for me to believe it, hard for me to act on it early in my marriage, was it's better to speak about it now, when it's a small thing, when we've noticed a pattern. When the first resentment is felt, it's much more easily addressed at that time than when someone is full blown raging angry because this has happened again and again and again and again, and I'm tired of it. And
Right.
So
Yeah.
it's better when it's a small resentment. I've kind of noticed that you're not doing your part, or you said you would, and I really need that help. When it's a small thing, it's much less threatening. So that's the first thing I would say. It's much easier to begin when it's small, much easier to begin when it's non-threatening.
In my book, Learning to Dance in the Rain, I used some examples from a relationship expert about the difference in the way the men talk versus the way the woman talks.
I'd like to hear what those differences are. That's it. That's intriguing. I know there are, but kind of tell me about it. Tell me more.
But
okay. Sorry.
One of the things that was suggested is choosing the right time to have those conversations that we're talking about.
Oh, all right.
For example, when your husband comes home from work, he's tired. He still hasn't gotten rid of that office atmosphere and whatever went on there today. He's still that. So he walks in the door and says, I have a really problem with, that's not going to be a good time to talk about.
Perhaps not. Waiting at the door to ambush and to pounce. No, but maybe that's not the right approach.
Right. And another time is like, it's said that a man needs time to, like my son, I couldn't understand why my son came home from when he was living with me for a couple of weeks there. He'd come home, turn on the TV, sit down on the couch and be quiet for
right.
When I read it in this book, you do need that time. Even a woman needs that time, but maybe to start thinking about home and
Right.
what we're going to do
Mhm.
tonight, and food and whatever.
Mhm. Mhm.
And
Mhm.
so they were suggesting planning a time when
Right.
maybe a nice dinner with just the two of you and the kids are maybe at
Right.
grandma's.
Mhm. Right.
Say, you know, yeah, well, I just thought we had some things we need to talk about. So
Right.
let's
Right. Right.
have a good dinner. I don't suggest you start talking about the bad ones before you start eating, or you won't want it.
Well, not over. Yeah. The
But
food will be ruined.
kind of setting a relaxing one-on-one conversation,
Right.
uh, and that I thought that was a very good
Along
idea.
those lines, part of the marriage encounter weekends was making arrangements to have daily check-in moments, so that both of us had that anticipation that not right away after getting home from work, or not right away while trying to figure out who's going to cook supper or what are we going to have, or while those household pressures are on, but
Mhm.
later in the evening, maybe turning off the TV. I can't remember if it was 5 or 10 minutes every day, and a half hour on the week, one day on the weekend. That this was a planned time, and both realized that we've made a commitment to do that, and so we can kind of get ourselves ready. Now, one of the things I know as a man, is that uh, research shows that women speak more words than men. And I'm so many thousand words, so many more thousands of words a day. And I don't have the statistics off the top of my head. I only know women uh, tend to speak more words per day, and
Oh,
men fewer. So the thing is that when I get home from doing pastoral things and helping and in meetings in church, and talking with folks and counseling and that sort of thing, pretty much I've used up all my words by the time I come home. And of course, I'm an introvert. I'm not an extrovert, so I think that diminishes my supply of words available every day. And so sometimes when I sit down and relax, I just want to be quiet. And if there's an issue that needs to be addressed, sometimes I resent that. And at least have that quiet time so my batteries can recharge a little bit before
right.
later on we can
So that
begin to
you agree with,
gear up for that, have that energy ready for that time to share,
right,
husband with wife, wife with husband.
right. So that supports what I had learned from the expert in my
And
when I
here's
wrote.
one more thing I would think that's probably typically an unfair thing. Maybe it's not true anymore, but I noticed, because things were unfair in our family. Both my wife and I, we worked full-time jobs and that sort of thing. But I came home from work. Jerry would come home from work, and then she'd have to fix dinner because I so seldom ever did that, and that was her responsibility. When we were dating, there were certain things we said. If work needs to be done indoors, it was Jerry's job. If work needed to be done outdoors, then that was my job: shoveling snow, working on the car, mowing
Mhm.
lawn, raking
Yes.
leaves, and that sort of thing. But
Uh,
cooking a meal happens every day. Happens at least a couple times a day. That responsibility, man works from sun to sun, but woman's work is never done. In
yeah.
traditional roles, that's pretty much very true. So for men to come home while you're if how you work out who's fixing dinner, and that's if it happens to be your spouse's time to men, women, if it's your spouse's time to cook dinner, you probably want
Mhm.
to let them have that cooking, that time to prepare, time to cook, and that sort of thing, to get that chore out of the way, sit down and enjoy a meal together. Maybe offer, you cook, I'll do the dishes, and
Mhm.
then while those cleanup chores are going on, maybe have that conversation then. So
Right.
anyway,
Back in the
I
days,
think that goes along with what you're saying. Don't pounce when your spouse comes home from work.
right, right. And did you have time when you could I'll start paying attention to the children. Or did you
Right,
have kids
right.
at home?
That might be the concern. Sure, sure.
Yeah, because
Small children, especially,
right.
needing help with bathing, getting children in bed, and that sort of thing.
And we had the same rules that you did. The inside was my business and the outside was his, other than the flowers in the garden up above, around the house.
Right, right,
Uh, that was my job, weeding the flowers. But the
right,
big
right,
job, but you said my jobs were all the time. His
right.
job,
Yeah.
weekend,
So
maybe.
you notice that too. That's really works out to an unfair disadvantage. The
Uh-huh.
woman is disadvantaged. The men really have so much lighter duties compared to, once a week. If
Right.
it's winter weather, maybe twice you shovel the walk. Big deal. When your wife is coming home and caring for the whole family, and it might not be just cooking meals, but is she the one doing the laundry? Is she the one? It goes on and on and on.
Oh
Uh,
yeah.
do you really have equitable balance in household responsibilities? And I think that is a huge area of resentment for long-term relationships.
Oh yeah. It really is. Say that again. Equitable time and
Equitable balance between responsibilities. Yeah.
yeah.
And you have to take into account who's got certain talents and who does not, and that sort of thing. But, I don't have any talents for working in the kitchen, but obviously I have not starved to death. And I do know how to cook a few meals and that sort of thing. I might not be very good at it, but nobody's been poisoned by my cooking yet. So
Right.
why can't I step up on a couple evenings a week or through 3 evenings out of 4? And might not be my specialty or my strength, but I can do it. And so, and if it's not easy for someone to make that kind of sacrifice, you know what? That kind of sacrifice says, I love you even more than, oh gosh, I got this. It's a natural for me. No big deal. But if you struggle a little bit, but you still insist, I want to do this for you, I think it's seen as a very strong gesture of love.
Right. And nothing says you can't have bologna sandwiches. Maybe. Or
Yeah.
you can
Yeah.
learn to
Yeah.
grill sandwiches or bring a pizza home.
Yeah.
that's
That counts too. That counts too.
was to take me out to eat.
In that regard, when there's carry out, somebody's got to make a run. Guess who's going to make the run?
Yep. Too. Going back down here on my list here, it said on learning to fight fair, and it
Oh
says
yeah. Oh
it
yeah.
said the word always, but that's not even
Yeah.
on here. Avoid blame, and I think the always comes in there when we're blaming them.
I think so.
Name
Yeah.
calling is really name calling is really out because that's
Right.
immediately
Right. It's very. You're undercutting your
right.
partner's self-esteem.
Yeah.
What I heard so much when I was growing up. Oh, you stupid idiot. It wasn't my mother or father saying that to me. It was my brothers. It was
Sure.
terrible, terrible competition and that sort of thing. But when you start off the very first thing in an argument by cutting them down, but you never understand it. You're too dumb, or that is just undermining their self-esteem. If you love
Right.
someone, you don't want to cut them down. You want to build them up. You want to build them up. So
That's
there's no place for name calling. There's no place for name calling. If you had a legitimate beef with your partner, to start out with name calling, now you got two problems. With the legitimate problem you had to bring up, but also you just stepped over the line, and your spouse is going to be rightfully wounded and angry, and so now you got double the trouble.
right. So, what should be your focus when you want to bring up something that's bothering you? I believe it's not these things we've been talking about being
No, no.
great,
Mhm.
calling, or what always, but how about focusing on resolving a problem?
focusing on the resolution. Define the problem, and then make it an invitation. Let's look at this together and let's see if we can come up with a solution.
Right.
And so that you are all both in it, rather than I'm mad at you and you got to do this, and your spouse has got no say in it. And what if they don't want to do that? Or what if that really the way you see the problem is not the way your partner sees the problem? The problem might be, as far as your partner is concerned, the problem might be you. So it's good to be able to sit down and define the problem without blaming. And
How can we solve this?
how can we solve this? Kind of talk it over and find out what are the different aspects of this conflict that we've encountered, and what ways can we gently improve the situation, so we don't have these hurt feelings, we don't have this resentment growing, and we can kind of restore a peaceful and loving relationship. I think that's the key. Just to have that's the end goal. That's on the horizon. That's where you're headed, to get back to that loving relationship, and to restore those impulses and those feelings of love, by removing the impediments to that, and the little petty things that we do that aggravate and that sort of thing. Done often enough, it's more than little and petty and aggravations. It can lead to World War IV.
Right. Well, I had in therapy once, the therapist asked me, "Well, Shelby, do you have to win all the time?" And I had to stop and think and said, "I don't think so." And my husband said, "Yes, you do."
Oh no.
So if you think about, okay, it's not about winning. It's about,
okay, I like that. Say that again.
It's not about winning. Who's going to win the argument or whatever? It's about talking it out and resolving it and coming up with a better way of dealing with things.
Right. Not you lose and I win, and going for all-out victory, but the win-win, where you gain the thing that you need and I gain the thing that I need, so that we both come away feeling like my partner has dealt fairly with me. My partner understands how I feel. I have been heard, and I believe our resolutions are going to be honored, and my partner will gain, and so will I. A win-win.
I think if we follow this number 4 and number 11 on my list, supporting each other and encouraging growth and so on, and expressing gratitude regularly.
Right.
When you said that we check-in sessions, I think that should include but gee, I really like the way you did the dishes last night.
Thanks for offering. Thanks for offering. That took me by surprise, but I really appreciate that.
Right. So showing gratitude and thinking about supporting each other and our needs and so on, instead of, well, I felt this way when you did whatever.
Right. Those sometimes they're called affirmations. What really attracted me to you when we first met? To be able, you might have said it when you were dating, or maybe these things were left unspoken, I don't know, but to be able to go back and say, when we first met, and when I was drawn to you, this is what I saw, this is what I felt, and this was the aspect of your character that I saw in you, and I was really attracted to you because of that. Affirmations, to say, I think you are a wonderful mother. I think you are a wonderful provider. I think you are a wonderful caregiver, whatever. And to be able to say thank you those ways, and kind of with a gentle pat on the back for job well done and thank you for doing these things.
That's very good. That's very good. Very good. Let's see here. So the next thing on my list is keeping romance alive, making time for each other. So that that daily check-in time.
Yes. Yeah.
That
Yeah.
help in facing our gratitude and
I
really,
like to sing little love songs. Jerry and I are both hippies from the '60s. that's the songs we grew up with, '60s and '70s music and that sort of thing. And there's a whole lot of love songs from that era. And I like to sing to Jerry, and that's the way I kind of check in with her in the evening. She is bedbound most of the day because of her arthritis pain. She doesn't get up very much, and her day is pretty limited. She does get up for several hours, few hours every afternoon and evening, so that she's vertical, which is important for her lung health. But when she goes back to bed at night, after a little bit, I like to go in and I like to just tell her something, or say something goofy, or sing a little song, or maybe have YouTube and play one of those old romantic songs, and do that for her. I'm always looking for that creative way to make her smile, and so that's my approach to doing those little things to keep the romance alive. Now, for the longest time too, in our middle years, sometimes we would just be hungry just to spend time close to one another. And we originally had recliners that were together, and we would sit together with our arms around each other watching TV, or just side by side, our shoulders and arms touching each other, just to have a little bit of physical contact, or cuddling at night, without any sexual repercussions or anything like that, just to be able to comfort one another for whatever, 5 or 10 minutes before we got sleepy and rolled over and went to bed. We really have our limits. We're not those people that can spoon. That's just too close. We're very independent people, but there's times we really need, I think a human being needs the touch of a loving person. And so that's something that we kept alive through our middle years, especially, that we really needed those times of just physical intimacy, just the cuddling, just the nearness, the closeness. That was important for us.
that brings up another book called, I believe, Love in let's see, what is another person's love language? Can't remember.
Love
The four languages,
languages.
or
Yeah.
something like that.
Yeah.
I remember one of them was touch. One person wants to be touched, and maybe the other one doesn't.
Right.
My husband was a toucher, but I am so you have to.
Sure.
What was his love language? Well, I look at some acts of service. I do everything I do for you. That and that's why he would think, well, you prepared me.
This is what I am already loving you with all these things that I do to provide for us and our home, and care for you in a practical way. Mm-hmm.
Right. And that was second.
There was another one, gifts, giving little gifts that kind of indicated a personal knowledge of something your partner really especially likes, taking them by surprise. It's not a birthday, it's not Valentine's Day, it's just all of a sudden, he remembered. Right. Boy, she really took me by surprise when she did this, because she knows that this is whatever that little tiny, it didn't have to be big at all or expensive at all. Just some
Mhm.
tiny little reminder. I was thinking about you today, and I know this is special to you. So giving gifts, if there's some, for some people to receive a gift like that is an extra special blessing. That's their love language, to receive gifts.
Right. So how do you find out what is the love language of the one that your significant other is?
You can ask them. If you have that mutual conversation and you have that, I think that book needs to be kind of reinvestigated. You know, it's been around a long time, and maybe this current generation of young marrieds and or people falling in love even later in life and that sort of thing might need a reminder about how different we can be, about what kinds of loving expressions really touch someone's heart. So
Mhm.
you might have to get a new couple might have to get that book and kind of read it, and then have that evening conversation. And so, what do you think? Just ask, what do you think is your love language? What's most important to you?
Uh-huh.
So
Yeah, because if say, well, the husband is thinking that, well, I mowed the lawn and that was showing my love to you. I come home every night, so that's showing my love to you. But to the woman who's wanting to hear I love you once in a while, or
right,
maybe a hug or something
right,
like that, they don't get it,
yeah, physical
you know.
touch. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And then, to hear "I love you" or to receive a thank you, verbal affirmations. I think that's another form of one of the love languages. And I think it's important for someone to hear their partner to say they love. Now, Jerry and I have friends in our first parish here in Michigan, out by Everett. There was a couple, Ron and Marilyn. And Ron says, "Well, I first met Marilyn, and I told her then I loved her." And he says, "No, I'm never going to tell you that again." So he says, "No, I told her once I loved her. And I told her then if I ever changed my mind, I'd let her know."
Right. I have a friend, must have been his wife, because she said,
I
once
said,
we got
that
married,
just
we never
cracked me up. That
you
just
know,
cracked me up. But
finally
some people don't want to get all mushy with language. And well, I told you, and they don't know how important it is for their partner to hear it. To
right.
express it verbally. If your partner is able to articulate that, and you really love your partner, then even the most um, quiet quiet man would want to be able to express that. Knowing that his wife is really hungry to hear that. A quiet man, but a loving man, is going to make the extra effort to be able to say, "Well, honey, I love you. I worked today, and all day long I was thinking, I'm doing this because I love my wife." And
Mhm.
just, to say it. What harm is it? What's it hurt you, buddy, to be able to say "I love you" to your wife?
Right.
So sometimes it really is. It's an effort. You have to kind of, it's the first time you're trying to ride a bike. You probably fell down and skinned your knee. You weren't very good at it until you figured out how to get started and have a little speed, and the balance was easier when you got going along and that sort of thing. It's a skill, and at first you don't feel very skillful. You're not very good at it. It feels really awkward. But if you do it enough, buddy, if you say it enough, it'll become easier for you, and it'll become a daily habit for you. And your wife will be especially appreciative of you because of that. So, you might not be accustomed to it, but it's something that can be learned, and you can do it. And if you really are concerned or care about your relationship, you better be doing it. You're leaving your spouse out there with an unmet need, and that's not a good thing in this big wide world when we both go out our separate ways and we're working in a different place. And that's the reality. We got just about everybody's a two paycheck family, and wives are working full time and husbands are working full time, and we're out in the world and we're surrounded by all these other attractive people. By golly, if they're not getting their love tank cared for at home, that's asking for trouble down the road for this relationship, that they might start looking for someone out there in the world that will satisfy their love language if their spouse refuses to. It's a very, very cruel thing. If you know what your spouse is hungry for and refuse it, I think that is not part of it. That is very unloving thing to do. Not part of a loving relationship.
Right. And if you're working outside of the home, you're probably going to see those people that you work with more of the minutes of every day than you do with your with
I
your
bet you're
lover.
right. There's more opportunity in that sort of thing.
Right.
At least to have those social interactions,
Mhm. So
It
that
really starts crossing the line if after work you're looking for excuses to be together after work and you're not going home and you're not spending time with your spouse. All of these things are red flags, red flags, red flags, alarm bells,
right.
and of a relationship that is in deep trouble, deep trouble.
Is this a good time to talk about trust? Trust.
I think yes, yes, yes. Talk about a segue. Shelby, you're good at this. You are good at this. Yes. What would you talk? What would you say about trust, Shelby?
Well, number one, you don't just give them their trust. I think trust is earned,
Right.
right? When I meet someone, well, let's just say on the dating sites, for example.
All
Um,
right. This is your
One
bailiwick.
of
You've talked about this. You've taught this.
the very first things the person will start to talk about is, do you trust me? Or there was another
Huh.
one, was unconditional love.
Hmm.
And later I learned, those were, no, I don't trust you. How do I know if I can trust you or not? You have to
Yeah, we
show
just met. We just met.
you have to show me that you're trustworthy. And if we haven't even
True.
done anything other than chit chat, writing text back and forth or something like that, or even talking on the phone, how
That's
am I
no
supposed to
basis.
know whether I can trust you or not?
No, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right.
And this unconditional love, I think that came into the same when it was first thrown out at me. And I thought, what do you mean unconditional love? I
Yeah.
said, if I'm married to you and you go out with another woman and have sex with her, you think I'm gonna forgive that easily, if at all? I mean, no, I don't believe in unconditional
They
love.
could be using that as a sledgehammer, some threat over you. Well, you have to love me, and you got to
That
prove that you love me no matter what, under
yeah,
all circumstance, anything. That your love is you're always going to be there, and they can
no,
use that as a threat over you. Well, you said you love me no matter what.
yeah,
So, but I believe what you're describing, those are absolute deal breakers there. How do you repair a relationship when someone's been unfaithful, and not just in a social way or in a loving, romantic way, but in a sexual way? I think that really crosses all the boundaries. And so destructive, so destructive. I know it's possible to heal, to forgive, to repair, but surely the very foundations of the relationship have been damaged severely, and so it's never going to be what it was prior to that. But it is possible. You and I both know of circumstances and couples that have survived that kind of unfaithfulness, but I would say that's pretty rare.
hmm hmm but you know, as far as, well, if you don't do the dishes, I'm not gonna love you. That's a condition. I mean,
That's a
I think,
conditional love. Hmm.
yeah, I mean that, no. that's going too far. But they said there are a few things that might not be forgivable, and it would
Yeah.
certainly ruin the trust of the relationship thereafter. I think
Right.
that,
Well,
so
you raise a good question. How do you know? How do you develop trust? And I think a lot of it has to do with, well, first of all, if you say you're going to get together for when you're first doing this online dating kind of thing, if you say we'll get together at a certain time and meet online and on this particular day of the week or these particular days of the week,
mhm,
well, first of all, when you go there, are they waiting for you? Were they prompt and were they eager and or did they were
so
they sloppy and you were there by yourself for 15 minutes and they didn't even show up and they, oh, what's wrong with you? I got distracted, I'm sorry, I forgot, or the excuses begin. Or if you're into in-person dating and that sort of thing, the partner that their dating partner that forgot a date or is always late and that sort of thing. Those small things
mhm,
start to build a foundation of either solid trust or, gee, I don't know about this person. The little things that don't match up, and it's kind of a cumulative sort of thing, that the experience of their trustworthiness, their um, they keep their word, they keep their promises, they do what they say they'll do. They try with all their heart not to let you down. This over time uh, proves, that this person is worthy of your trust.
mhm,
But it would be only a foolish person that if somebody right away says, "Oh, you only talked a couple times on the line," they're starting to ask, "Do you trust me?" Only
uh-huh.
a fool would say, "Oh, I guess so. I don't know." There's been no basis for establishing trust,
Well,
especially online.
right, and but that's what the scammers try to do. I mean, that's the
Right,
purpose. First, you establish trust.
right,
Then,
right,
then you can. Oh yeah, I had an accident, and now I need money to buy fix the
that-
car. Okay,
right, 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 right,
that is a scammer.
mhm, right,
I mean,
right,
you might as
right,
well block them immediately, because if you don't, it's going to get worse. They're going to ask for more and more. They ask for little things in the beginning. Some of them ask
mhm,
for things right away. So, but anyway,
right,
the trust is earned, and it
right.
takes time.
And it
It's
takes time. You're right.
in a week or so, am I going to trust you? This is what I don't understand in movies or on television. A man and woman, they meet, and that night they sleep together, whatever, and then they move in together. And how on earth, why are they so surprised 2 weeks later or 7 months later that it isn't working? I mean,
Right, right, right.
I can like
Yeah,
a person the first time I sit down with them and talk with them, and that, but 6 months later I may not like them at all.
right, right, right. You really have to have that chance to search out that emotional and characteristic wise compatibility.
Uh-huh.
And faith and politics, they should go pretty much hand in glove together as well. Otherwise, you're going to have an area of intense friction. I can't imagine a lifelong Republican and a diehard Democrat in this day and age. How in the world will their marriage survive or anything like that? But they must have some real strong ground rules about we're not going to talk about this. I know where you're at. You know where I stand, and that sort of thing. But you really are looking for some compatibility along the lines. And I would like to say, from a Christian perspective, that the sexual act it should be reserved as the last form of commitment to a well uh, built up in a well-developed and a growing mutual love relationship. The sexual act is has been described to me in other Christian dialogues, is the sacrament of love. It is the ultimate expression of love, and it's based on all of these other layers. You know, when the Egyptians built the pyramids, they didn't build the tip top of the pyramid first and hoped it would hang up there in the air until they got the base filled up underneath of it. You can't build a pyramid starting with the tip top. You've got to begin with that huge foundation, and you've got to build the walls, and you've got to bring it up in symmetry. And only at the very end can you finally put the very tip top of the pyramid in place. So those who hurry up to get right away into the physical relationship, they're and then only later on find out that this guy's a real scumbag, or she's been doing this all the time with other guys, and now she's still doing this with other guys, and I thought I was going to be the one, and only too late we find out these negative aspects of this person that we thought we were falling in love with.
Right.
You know, these things need to be in place well beforehand, and you know, while the stakes are much smaller, discovering that this person is untrustworthy, or this person still wants to play the field. Well, fine, go play the field, but I've got nothing invested in this. We haven't made a huge commitment here. My heart might be broken for a while, but nevertheless, go on, goodbye, and I'll heal and try again. Because not everybody is going to be able to match your ideal or close to your ideal of a loving partner.
Mm-hmm.
But to rush to bed is, I think, a recipe for disaster.
Right. I think so too. And of course it makes the movies. I suppose that's what.
Well, you know, they're going for excitement. They're going for titillation and that sort of thing, of course. That's what sells movie tickets, but it does not make for a lasting relationship.
That's for sure, and that's a good way to bring an ending, I think, to our discussion on
Okay.
last, and we hope that we have hit on some high spots here, I think, and people could be helped by some of the things that
I hope so.
So I want to thank you, the audience, for listening today to Learning to Dance in the Rain. Be sure to tell somebody about our live show and about it becoming podcast. It's available on my YouTube channel at Shelby Wagner. It's on my website, learningtodanceintherain.com, and on your favorite podcast. You can find it. Audible even has it, and Amazon Music, and iHeartRadio. There's a whole lot of them. And I just learned that our station, W4CY, has won a business award from the North American Business Association. I think it is. I got it right. The best media and marketing company in the United States. And so I was really happy to get a copy of that. Maybe I'll read it next time. Want to remind you, I've got my brand new book, Finding Love Again. It's for people in later life, Seniors Guide to Online Dating. And I do think the internet dating is a good thing, but boy, you have to be careful. So I'm going to say goodbye. I thank you, Carl, for being here with me today.
Thank you, Shelby.
And thank you for all being here with us, too. And remember, learning to dance in the rain. Well, life is not about waiting for the storm to pass. It's about learning to dance in the rain. Have a good week, and we'll see you next time. Thank you. Bye-bye now.